All right, Mets fans, the trade deadline has come and gone, and the New York Mets have made several moves. And today on Metcast, insider and former New York Met, Nelson Figueroa is going to give us the breakdown on what he feels the Mets did right and what the Mets did wrong. We're going to get to that and a whole lot more next on Metcast. What's going on, Met fans? Welcome back to another episode of Metcast. As always, I am Ray with my co-host, Dan Bartels of the New York Post. We will be joined in a little bit by Figgy himself, who will be giving us a lowdown on the New York Mets and this trade deadline. But we're going to get to our thoughts first, Dan. We see who the Mets added. We called for the bullpen help. We called for the center fielder. Is it the high-end guy in center field? No, in Cedric Mullins. We could start off with that. Listen, the guy was great a few years back, but he's still a pretty good defender. He's got that 220 plus average. He is an above or slightly above average player, maybe slightly below depending on the day, but he is a way better than what we have out there right now. Not necessarily Jeff McNeil, but a more all-around complete guy. He's not as good defensively as Tyrone Taylor, in my opinion, but he's definitely not as bad as a bat. And he's kind of like right in the middle, exactly what we've been calling for. He's a rental. The Mets didn't give up much. They gave up one guy in their top 30, but he was only in the top 30 because of the other trades that we already made at the deadline. Otherwise, we gave back 3 unranked prospects, in my opinion, guys who also project to be relievers. So I'm good with it. That is an all-in. We're trying to win it right now move. I love it. You're on mute.
Great way to start a show, huh?
Yeah, all good.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here as well. Ray, happy to be with you. Happy to have Nelson on in a little while as well. Got a lot of questions to ask him because this team definitely beefed up at the deadline. I give it an A-. I know everybody has different grades, but I love the Mullins move. Definitely do. This is a higher floor than a Tyrone Taylor. Not to diminish what Tyrone Taylor brings to the table. Good bat-to-ball skills, can speed, great glove. But Mullins, this guy was unbelievable in 2021. If you can get any semblance of that, 878 OPS, we'll see. But again, the team control stuff, very interesting. Helsley, no team control after this season. Rogers, no team control after this season. Mullins, same thing. So it really begs the question what the next move is for the Mets. We heard Stearns today talking about not believing in windows. So maybe the Mets have a larger window than we think, but excited to hear from Nelson as well.
Yeah, and when you look at Cedric Mullins, his OPS plus this year, 105, which is 2 points below his career average, 738 OPS. This reminds me of 2015. We were calling for how long on this channel? We need the Juan Uribe, Kelly Johnson types. That's what this is. It allows the Mets to experiment a little bit. Now you have Tyrone Taylor going back to his natural position of 4th or 5th outfielder, and it deepens the lineup. I could see the Mets. I know a lot of Mets fans are saying, well, they're probably going to put him right to the bottom of the lineup. Maybe they try to use him to kickstart the top of this lineup, Dan. He's got plenty of career stolen bases, always a stolen base machine. He's got 14 already this year. Not as high as what he typically has, but we know he has the ability to do that. In 2024, 32 stolen bases. In 2023, 19. And 2022, 34. And 21, he had 30. So he is pretty much a guaranteed to be a 30-plus stolen base guy. Maybe he can reap a little bit of havoc. And I will say this too, something that is very underrated. He is coming from a dreadful Baltimore Orioles team. You bring him to the New York Mets and Juan Soto potentially sitting behind him in that 2-hole, he's going to get better pitches to see. That's something I think the Mets may explore. Take Brandon Nimmo, move him to the 5-hole, put McNeil in the 6-hole, and now all of a sudden you're way deeper 1 through 6 where you're kind of just worrying about 7, 8, 9 where Mauricio might be behind McNeil, and we all know he's got a great ceiling this year and beyond, and now the Mets have a choice to make. McNeil's going to play every day. There's no way that's not happening. So he's going to be locked up at second. So you have DH and you have third base. And I think Ronnie Mauricio is going to get the fair share at third base. Brett Beatty might be that super utility guy. We've spoken about it for forever about Jeff McNeil being the super utility guy. It might end up being Jeff McNeil. Brett Beatty. Maybe Mullins gets a day. You still put him out there. You put Beatty at second. I could see potentially Beatty spelling Nimmo a day here or there as we get further into the season because he's got that plantar fasciitis injury. Maybe Brett Beatty plays a little bit of left field. Maybe they DH Juan Soto, get him off his feet a couple of days as we're seeing the top of this lineup. Regardless of how excited we are today, and a lot of people are excited, don't get me wrong. There's no facing we got to face reality. Alonso, Lindor, and Soto have been terrible these last 40 games. Excuse me. Maybe this kick starts them. The homestand starts tomorrow, and that's what's so exciting. But with that said, I'll get your final comments on Mullins, and then I want to get to some of these pitchers, and we'll take a little bit deeper dive into their numbers.
Yeah, something you're going to hear me say throughout the course of this live, specifically to Nelson as well, but I'll say it to you right here, is that this is a great day, right? It feels like Christmas because over the past 48, 72 hours, it's been anticipation. Who are the Mets going to get? The leaks or the lack thereof, if you're the Mets. It's funny how they don't really do that. But, we have to see how this plays out. That's the big thing. Like, these are just names right now. Cedric Mullins, Tyler Rogers, Gregory Soto. We've seen a little bit great returns so far. And Helsley, you have to see how this plays out. And again, it goes back to that team control. Most of these guys are just flyers. If they don't do well, all right, well, you move on. But I think with Cohen's pockets, how deep they are, there's a good chance that they want to re-up with some of these guys as well.
Yeah, and that's one thing. If we were talking about anything, everyone's like, well, it's a rental. But nobody's technically a full-on rental when it comes to Steve Cohen. Let's be honest, Dan, because we saw it with Stanek this past year. Stanek played well in the postseason. You bring him back. I can see all of these guys potentially coming back. I don't know if Mullins would ever take a one-year deal, maybe 1 year with a team option, something like that, where Jet Williams and Carson Bench might be ready next year to come up as Bench continues to mash 4 homers in his last 3 games. Jet Williams hit his 10th home run of the year. His OPS is still over 900. Bench is pushing 1,000. And then you got guys like Brandon Sproat today striking everyone out. 5 innings, no runs, 9 Ks. I believe he had 23 swings and misses, for crying out loud. Things are looking up and up for this. But I want to get to Ryan Helsley. We'll start out with him, the closer of the St. Louis Cardinals. This year, 36 innings pitched, 41 strikeouts with a 13.89 whip, 21 saves in 36 games. His ERA is exactly 3. And one thing, Dan, if you want to get to it, I know you mentioned it yesterday. Why don't you talk about the little bit of tension he's got with the Braves?
Well, that's interesting. That goes back to a 2021 report out of the Los Angeles Times. They had a great story on it. He does not like the Braves. He is a Cherokee. He is an Indian. And he obviously, that can get some people, crossed over there because some people look at it as something offensive, rightfully so. I'm not going to blame Helsley for this, but I found it funny because we're Mets fans, and one of the teams, besides the Phillies, if we're being honest, that we dislike very much is the Atlanta Braves. So who
just blew an 8-run lead in the 8th, by the way.
Exactly. So this guy fits right in with the New York Mets. Excited to have him.
Oh, they took the lead in the top of the 10th.
Well, I'll pull up the exact quote if you don't mind, but
sure, take your time with it. Yep. While you're pulling up Helsley's quote, I will say this: the guy's battle tested, and everyone keeps saying, "Will Rogers, will Gregory Soto, will Helsley be the 8th inning guy?" It's gonna be Helsley. He's got that experience. I mean, think about the 7, 8, 9 potential right now. You still have a Reed Garrett who's pretty damn good back there. And you get the funny quote from Ryan Stanek saying, at this point, I'm probably going to be pitching in the 4th inning. You diminish these guys' roles into more specific roles, single innings where they know they're going to be up in the 6th, maybe the 7th a little bit here or there. But the late inning games where you're going to be using them are just not there. And also, Dan, they might get a little bit less usage. One thing we've spoken about early in this season, the amount of usage this bullpen has gotten. We had one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball between April and May, and it's completely imploded. And that's because of high usage. Garrett, Reed Garrett, I believe, had the most appearances in all of baseball up to just a few weeks ago. That is going to get diminished now that you have these arms. And don't be surprised later on in the season. We listened to David Stearns, for all the people out there saying, well, Ray, how come we didn't get starting pitching? We wanted starting pitching. First of all, the price of starting pitchers were through the roof, which I understand. It's a win now, yada, yada. But it's a caliber of pitcher you're acquiring going to start over David Peterson, Sean Manaea, or Kodai Senga. Odds are no, which means they're going to be starting one game in a 7-game series. What are you willing to give up for that? Also, I think David Stearns made it quite apparent. Let me pull up this quote. It was from tonight. We quoted it on Metcast. I have it right here. Quote from David Stearns: "We have confidence not only in the starters who are here, who we think are going to keep us competitive and help us win games. We are also pleased with the development of how some guys in AAA are progressing." I know last week we heard him talking about, well, AAA, more development, yada, yada. That's all a smokescreen. Let's be real. You don't want to tip your cards before the deadline. But in my mind, I think there's a great chance we see Brandon Sproat pretty soon. And maybe even Nolan McLean. And maybe, just maybe, we move Brandon Sproat just like Adam Wainwright did against us in 06. Maybe move him into the pen. He's a natural reliever, a reliever out of Florida. I mean, Brandon Sproat went over 100 miles an hour today on his fastball. He's got plus stuff, and we've all known about McLean's slider, which is devastating and filthy. Both guys could play up in a bullpen role, and maybe they're the guy that comes in and a Clay Holmes makes his way to the bullpen. And now we're talking about guys like Reed Garrett and Ryan Stanek in the 5th inning. So if you have a Brandon Sproat who can only go 5, you have plenty of backup there. And you're not scared like we all, Christopher Duskansky. We all know he ain't that good. Just is what it is. No offense to him, but he's not that good. There's a reason why he just got sent back down. Same thing, and I believe, Oscar Brazovan, I believe he will be here for the playoff run. I think he's been massively overused early on. That's probably why his struggles are happening. But this team is now set up for a deep playoff run. And I know a lot of people may not buy it, but when you see this team in action, when there's not that glaring hole in center field that we've been staring at literally for 3 months now, things are looking up, Dan.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I want to circle back to that Brazoban point. The quote on Helsley was so funny. He called it, quote, disrespectful. The Atlanta chop, oh, we all hate it, right? We can't, House of Horrors, we all know the story. And he said, quote, in this kind of caveman type people way who aren't intellectual. Not going to call Atlanta fans, I can't speak to their intelligence here. But again, it's just a funny quote. And again, fits right in with New York. And Brazoban, it's interesting, right? Because he gets sent down and the Mets then say, Mendy, they're going to build him up to 40 pitches down in Syracuse. That's all well and good, but that was before we knew about Budo getting traded, right? So now it all makes sense. It feels like Brazoban's eventually going to come up and fill that Budo role as a potential long reliever. And that was supposed to be a guy like Blackburn's role as well. And look at him. I mean, I don't know what the Mets are going to do with a guy like that. They asked Stearns today. He kind of just gave a halfway answer, Maybe he's a starter. Maybe he'll be in the pen, but you brought in so many arms at this point. I don't know what the future of Paul Blackburn is. So again, it's all good stuff. The Mets are not stupid, right? They know what they're doing, and they make corresponding moves for a reason. And, it's all going to work out. This deadline was good. I want to touch on Winker quick, sent to the 60-day IL. The Mets don't seem to feel that he'll be ready in August, which is unfortunate. That's a whole month without Jesse Winker, but he's not that big of a piece to this Mets team right now. But hopefully for the September and hopefully an October run, we saw what he can do against teams in the postseason. So, again, things are moving. Christmas in July. There's an unbelievable trade deadline, and I'm excited to dive into it more.
Well, and we'll get to Tyler Rogers in a second.
Yep.
We just need, let's be honest. And I know we all know it. It's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. The top of this lineup needs to get going. Enough of the excuses. It is July. It is 50 games almost where Lindor, Soto, and Alonso are hitting in the 100s combined. Unacceptable.
Okay.
I believe Lindor's like 144 since June 13th. Needs to pick it up. These guys are being paid to be superstars. They need to perform like it. If you got to make a coaching change, make a coaching change. I don't know if they need to or not. I'm not that kind of person, but if it needs to be done, get it done. Now on to Tyler Rogers, who's actually my favorite deadline pickup. Let's be real. He is older, 34 years old, the submariner. We just saw him with the Giants, but check out these numbers, folks. It's insane. 50 innings, which means 14 more innings than Helsley. 38 strikeouts. So he's not striking out the world, but check out this whip. 0.860. Almost unheard of. 1.80 ERA. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Ray, is it a one-hit wonder? Well, last year's ERA was a 2.8. And again, his whip was right at 1,000. 1,038. That's great. This guy's been so steady his entire career. He's had 1, 2, 3, now 4 years in his career where his ERA is in the 2s or lowers. I think he's good against both lefties and righties, and I expect him to be taking over that Ryan Stanek role late in games in that 7th inning, Dan.
Yeah, and this is a different look out of the Mets pen, too, and Stone spoke about that today as well. This is a negative 64-degree arm angle, and he had 2 scoreless innings or 2 scoreless appearances against the Mets over the weekend when they played the Giants. And I remember we were doing a live, and I got up, and I stood up and was trying to replicate the arm angle of negative 64 degrees. It started hurting my elbow. I mean, this guy is unbelievable in the way that he can do this. And I think, again, it goes back to the different looks out of the pen. It's not just straight over the top guys nonstop or 3/4 arm slots all the time. You're seeing different looks, and I think that's very important for a bullpen that needs to be diverse. And I think that the Mets are looking at that and saying, yeah, this was a good pickup, solid pickup. His brother Trevor, too, kept getting thrown around in trades twice in one day. So it's just fun, right? It really is. But, you know, I love the addition of Tyler Rogers to the New York Mets, just like you do. I like the Helsley one a little more, comparing him with Diaz, but I love the Tyler Rogers pick, no doubt.
Yeah, it's almost like, remember a few years back we added Tyler Clippard?
Sure.
Almost a better version of him, obviously, but those types of things where it's like, oh my gosh, we need our pitcher to go 8 because there's nobody you trust out there. Now the Mets have 3 guys out there you absolutely trust. And that's what takes me to Gregory Soto.
Yeah.
The lefty, 30 years old. We all seen the numbers from Baltimore. Not crazy, but his stuff plays up. 3.79 ERA over 38 innings, 46 strikeouts with a 12.89 whip. And the big issue with him, his biggest bugaboo, yes, it is the walks. In 36 and a third innings, 18 walks this year, which is 1 walk every 2 innings. Just is what it is. Yeah, you already pitched an inning and 2/3 for the Mets. Look pretty damn good. 2 strikeouts, but it's the upside, the lefty now with him and Brooks Raley, a guy who's almost unforgotten, who's been lights out for the Mets, Dan. You now have that lefty combination. What AJ Minter would do to this team if he didn't get hurt. It'd be unbelievable. But now you're looking at that lefty matchup when you're looking at the Phillies with Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber of the bunch. Now you're like, we might actually have the upside here. He's a hard-throwing lefty. We saw him in that brief spot. He could touch 97, even 98 miles an hour, which not a lot of guys could do. He's going to provide that elite back end of the bullpen help. He might be closing out a game or 2. We might see Helsley close out a game or 2. Wow. Now, and Diaz goes 2 games in a row, and you're saying, oh, crap. Ryan Stanek or Reed Garrett, and we have nobody to bridge them because Max Kranick's got Tommy John. AJ Minter's done for the year. Everybody seems to have gotten hurt. You're no longer like that. You say, you know what? Helsley could close it out. I'm more than comfortable with Soto in the 8th and more than comfortable with Rogers in the 7th and even Reed Garrett in the 7th or Ryan Stanek. I'm actually plenty fine with Ryan Stanek on this team still. I know a lot of people hate him, but if he's choking it right when he comes in, the backup you're bringing in has the ability to get out and strike guys out, something that we haven't had. And I understand a lot of Met fans are going to say, well, Ray, we lost Jose Butto. He's got 5 years of control left. The issue is Butto can't throw strikes. It doesn't matter. We can sit here, all we want and cry for Jose Budo. He's got control, but when we take a deeper dive into the numbers, his whip is a 1.383. His ERA is 3.64, which is very solid. But let's take a look at this. 47 innings, 22 walks, 41 strikeouts. Soto's like him, but just another tier above. The strikeouts are there where they're not with Budo, and I trust Soto way more in a high leverage situation.
I can't speak to the importance of bringing in a Gregory Soto. It doesn't seem like much on the surface, but you're right. It addresses a need of a left-handed guy, high leverage if you need it. The thing with me is the command can be a little bit better. A 4.3 walks per 9, not great for a guy like Gregory Soto, and he's also a 2-pitch pitcher, which isn't the end of the world. He has 4 pitches, don't get me wrong, but he really relies on his sinker very heavily. Has the 4-seam, has the sweeper, the split finger as well. I like having Gregory Soto in this pen to the point you said, because next year, I don't like to think ahead too much, but having A.J. Minter back, having Gregory Soto as that second lefty or even first to come in and see how Minter bounces back, you know how imperative that is for this Mets team? I mean, it's unbelievable. He induces a lot of weak contact, 96th percentile in barrel rate. I really love what I get out of Gregory Soto, and the early returns have been very positive. So, again, Stearns knows what he's doing. He addressed these needs, and, Gregory Soto is just another one of those needs that was addressed.
I agree. And, guys, Nelson should be with us pretty shortly. He said around 10-ish, but anybody who knows when Nelson comes on, he likes to eat dinner late. Remember, he's on TV all the time, giving his perspective, so he gets home late, and then he's very kind to us, become a very good personal friend and a friend of the show, obviously. Gives us a lot of insight, lets us know what's happening. And if you guys are enjoying this content, I just ask you to give us a thumbs up while you're hanging out here. And with that, I want to get to our next segment. Dan, give me your starting lineup against a righty every day.
Whew. Okay, Nimmo leading off, number 1. Brandon Nimmo.
Okay, so let's take a slow really quick.
Good.
You're gonna put Nimmo over Mullins in the leadoff spot, correct? Right?
Sure.
Okay.
Francisco Lindor too. I'm keeping the 1 through 4, right? Just so if you're wondering.
I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with you.
Oh, sure. I'm probably batting Mullins 6th, guys. I'm not batting him at the top of this lineup. The Mets probably maybe think differently, but you have to think is unless Nimmo goes down to the 4 or 5 and he's protecting Pete, that's fine with me too. But Nimmo has displayed exceptional top of the order ability again in his career. It's like a revitalization, if you will. But I like Mullins in the 5 or 6. I like him really as the 6. I don't think he needs to protect Pete. I do believe in Vientos. I think this 9-game hitting streak that he's on is for real. We saw the Grand Slam last series. I think the power has arrived for Mark Vientos. I don't want to shortchange it. And now that he's here for the rest of the year, we all better get behind Mark Vientos because we really don't have a choice at this point. But really,
and I think he will come around, but I'll give you my points.
Sure. And even Mauricio could be that 5 hitter if we're being honest. And then it trickles down. Of course, you have Beatty, you have McNeil. I can't give specifics off the top of my head. Obviously, Alvarez probably in the 8 hole. And I like Mauricio in the 9, but that's a different conversation. It depends what they'll do. But yeah, I don't know if batting Cedric Mullins, he has to prove that he could bat at the top of the lineup. I think that's a big thing. But again, I'm not the manager. So,
So here's what I say. And it's a little bit unorthodox, but I'll tell you. I'm leaving Nimmo there at the top of the lineup. And I think a lot of you guys in the chat will agree. So OPS was over 850 this past month. The only guy at the top of the lineup that's getting on base. 879 the month of June. Got to leave him there. And the number 2 hole, I'm going back to Juan Soto. If you're not going to hit dingers, I need you on base. In the 3 hole, I will leave Francisco Lindor. Regardless, but it's not for long. It's not a lock. I'm going to leave him there, but it's been 45 games this slump. I'm giving you the first week of August to start showing me something. We can't sit here. Dan, he's striking out 3 times a game in big spots. We can't have that. But I'm going to leave him there, and I'll tell you the caveat afterwards. Number 4, obviously, we're going to go Pete Alonso. Number 5, I'm going Ronnie Mauricio. You want to talk about breaking guys up?
Love it.
Ronnie Mauricio, in the month of July, an entire month, his OPS was 842. Switch hitter. So you can't just bring in a righty to face Alonso, righty, all the way down. That's when I get to Vientos after that. So then Vientos is your 6th hole. Your 7th hole is Jeff McNeil. Look how much your lineup is extended there. I want Pop behind Alonso. For years and years, we saw Jeff McNeil behind Alonso. It's not working. Nobody fears him. And when Mauricio's hot, like he has been, he puts fear into teams because not only can he hit it out anywhere, any ballpark, he's a gap-to-gap guy. He could steal a bag, and I want him up in RBI spots. Not saying it's permanent, but that's the shakeup. Wake this team up, followed by McNeil, and then the rest. Alvarez. And what I would prefer to do with Mullins, I want to hit him 9th. Because you know what it does? I want to give him a protection that he doesn't have in Baltimore. You want to go back a couple of years when he was an all-star, a great player. Look at the protections in that lineup and look at today. If he's hitting 9th, the guy behind him is Brandon Nimmo. Teams fear Brandon Nimmo. You can't just give Cedric Mullins garbage and then expect if he's on base, nobody's behind him to knock him in. You got to pitch to him. That's how you get Mullins his protection. You put him in the 9 hole and you leave him there. Now I'll tell you this. And I know it's a small sample, so people are going to get on me. But let's be honest. Carlos Mendoza keeps sticking Mark Vientos in the 2 hole. So whatever I say can't be that nuts.
Right.
I'll tell you this before we get to Goomba, which I appreciate, my guy.
I'm making a lineup right now, but to throw it out on Twitter, right?
Sure thing.
Sure.
I'll tell you this. If Francisco Lindor doesn't get it together by August 10th, which at that point you're talking almost 60 games of a slump, I'm moving Mauricio into the 3 hole. If he continues to hit. That switch hitter, high velocity, and he still has the protection. And I don't know where I'm going to put Lindor.
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to have 2 switch hitters back to back.
We can't continue to do what we're doing, Dan. It's not working.
It's not.
We haven't scored in 2 months.
Yeah.
At least that's what it feels. But I want to get to Goomba really quick. Goomba, thanks so much for the super chat. He says, McLean and Sproat should both come up and piggyback the same start. I've heard that mentioned before. This way, neither of them go through the lineup more than 2 times. The pen gets a break once a week. It's not the worst idea. I mean, didn't they do it the other day with Sean Manaea? What was it, Clay Holmes? I actually think I could see them doing that with Clay Holmes more often. If they bring up Brandon Sproat, who's on the 40, man, and Goomba, thanks again for that. I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, Goomba.
If they bring up Sproat, I could see Clay Holmes starting to piggyback some of these guys. Keeps his innings down. He seems to be more effective early. He gets shellacked in the 4th and the 5th. So if you bring up a Brandon Sproat and he goes 4 innings and Clay Holmes can get you to the 7th, get you to that back end of the bullpen, it could be a recipe for success. What do you think about that?
I think Clay Holmes needs to go to the bullpen, specifically in a playoff situation. I'm not going to go to the extent where, in the regular season, just give up on him. Still want to see a little bit more, as does David Stearns, I would imagine. But yeah, let's be honest, guys. This guy was an all-star reliever with the Yankees. You could say it was fluky, but he was an all-star last year, and he showed great stuff out of the pen. The stuff still plays for the pen. I mean, if you can't get past the 5th inning, that is a concern. And Stearns noted that today. He said he knows he's working on it. They're going to address it. But again, like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, go out there and be a starter for this team. Because let's be honest, like, they didn't address starting pitching at the deadline. Would have been helpful if they brought in at least one starter to maybe help everybody out. But clearly they didn't. I think that's everybody's bugaboo right now. But it would behoove the Mets to go out there and make Holmes a bullpen piece for the postseason. Because again, if you're a wild card team, don't even think about it. He's not in the rotation. But even in an NLDS or NLCS, I'm just not comfortable with Clay Holmes starting a game. I'd rather have him in the pen. And you could make the case 6th inning, 7th inning, not a high leverage guy because you brought in Helsley and all these other names. But yeah, it's something definitely to consider, and I think it would help the Mets.
If Clay Holmes is moved to the pen, I think he immediately goes to the seventh inning guy.
That's fair.
I mean, think
Standing
about the back of that bullpen. Diaz, Helsley, Soto, Rogers, Holmes, Garrett. 6 guys you have that you trust. Now, the Mets are going to have to make a decision here. Bringing on Mullins, who's going to be the odd guy out? And I think it's Acuna. I think if we're going to address any negative with this deadline, Dan, it's the fact the Mets didn't move Acuna, in my opinion. His value is simply not there right now as a bat. You want to say you can run, sure. There's plenty of track athletes around baseball. But at the end of the day, I feel like that was the move to be made. You're supposed to move him. He doesn't have a ton of value. You're probably going to send him back down. And yeah, he'll start hitting in AAA where everybody hits. And that's why what Sproat and McClain are doing down there is so special, because literally everybody hits down in AAA. There's nobody who doesn't hit down in AAA. So let me put that out there. Go look at the stats. Brett Beatty gets sent down, immediately 350 and hitting home runs. Acuna goes down, goes from a 200 major league hitter right to a 300 guy down there, stealing doubles, home runs galore. But Clay Holmes going to the pen could change that. It could change the back end of the bullpen. And then I believe he's going to be the odd guy out, Acuna, with this infield. What do you think?
I think so as well. I think Acuna, we all overvalued him last year, myself included. I'll raise my right hand. We were going into spring training. We asked Tim Healy in the offseason, how do you feel? And he was really advocating for McNeil, and we were kind of pushing back saying, oh, what about Acuna? This guy's amazing, the upside. But, you know, I go back to that series against the Giants when they pinch hit for him and he swung and missed at a pitch in the left-handed batter's box. That's a concern. That's not anything more than a mental fluke. And I'll go even deeper, guys. For the people that are on TikTok, way more than me. Acuna's on that app, and I think it is something to think about. I don't know how invested he is. He gets bored. That's here. So I'm just not a real believer in Acuna right now, as unfortunate as that is. He's carved out his role in the big leagues. You're a speedster. You're a utility guy. You have a really good glove, but the Mets never really gave him that free rein in center field like we thought they would. So maybe they didn't see the upside there clearly, and they addressed it with a guy like Cedric Mullins. And yeah, I don't know what Acuna's days might be numbered, unfortunately. Obviously not now, past the trade.
Do you think they missed the boat on that? Because think Jet Williams is here, Carson Benj is here. Sure. I mean, the infield is already stacked. McNeil's going back to his natural position. He's under contract next year.
Right. I think they missed the boat, Ray. I agree. And you got Jet Williams coming up, who we all thought would take his place eventually. So we'll see. You know, we'll see. Acuna's day is probably numbered, though.
I agree. Guys, I got a message from Nelson. Something came up he's dealing with at home. So nothing we could do with the show here, but he will be on eventually to talk about this. It might actually be tomorrow night, but I apologize for that. But sometimes when guests have issues like that, nothing I could do about it, you know.
Yeah.
That's life. Life happens. I got a daughter upstairs. My wife might call me and say, hey, something's going on. What are you going to do? Let's get to a couple of your guys' comments before we close things out for tonight. Again, if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. Consider becoming a member to be guaranteed to get your comments read. Kai, great pickup so far. Still concerned about our starting pitching. I feel as if there's an injury or two, we could be back in trouble unless Stearns decides to bring up some of the young guns. That's probably the biggest concern that I spoke to you about, Dan. What are the odds? Senga, Montas, Manaya, all guys who've been out for the majority of the season, all make it to October.
Probably not likely. I mean, eventually you're going to have to call up a Sproat. You're going to have to call up a McClain. Sproat is older than McClain, so something to note. And he was once ranked a higher prospect than Nolan McClain. If you ask me, gun to my head, I know Joe DeMeo said that Nolan McClain would be the one that they'd call up first. I'd have to push back. I do think that given Brandon Sproat today, 95 pitches, 9 Ks in Syracuse today, really effective, only 5 innings. That's a little bit of a concern, but I really believe that Brandon Sproat deserves an opportunity. And, you know, if the Mets did go and acquire a starting pitcher before they called up a Brandon Sproat, it's borderline malpractice on the New York Mets, and I'm happy that they didn't do that. So now we'll get the opportunity. This is a very good thing that the Mets didn't go out and get a starter. It's a blessing in disguise because now you're going to see this youth that we've been preaching about for so long.
That's right. Dan makes a great point here. Stearns fleeced the Orioles on Cedric Mullins trade. Only hear good things about him from the Oriole fans. Way better option than the trade proposal for Robert Jr. I will say this. It came out today for anybody who lives under a rock. The White Sox were asking for Jonah Tung. What are we doing here?
Right.
Wayne says, let's go Mets. Absolutely. Thanks for everybody who's chiming in over on Facebook. That community is growing like crazy, and it's awesome to see over there. Frankie says, love to see it. Does Mully play tomorrow? If he doesn't, I'd be upset.
Oh,
you
he's
agree,
playing.
Dan? I mean,
guys, he's playing. Elsley's going to be in the pen. Hell's Bells at Citi Field. Let's go, baby. Come on. You want some energy on Metcalf? Let's go. Hell's Bells all day long.
Ray Rivera, what's going on? See you out here. I know your birthday was last week. Hope everything's good with you. Jose says, Holmes' bullpen, his Sproat rotation is the right way. Potentially. I just don't know, because when you look at the innings pitch, that's what you got to look at. Guys typically go 20% more. Sproat and McLean are already approaching those innings.
Yeah.
Vincent, which we rarely take comments over from X. If you want to be more likely to get your comment read, make sure they're on YouTube or Facebook. Vincent says, hey guys, this was a masterclass by Stearns. Got 4 players at a position of need and gave up a total of 10 prospects and Gilbert, the only potential piece. And I will say this. Drew Gilbert was never the guy for the future. Let's keep it a buck here. It's Jet Williams and Carson Bench. Nimmo's not going anywhere, and Soto's not going anywhere for a long time. And Gilbert's already 24. And he doesn't project to be a center fielder. Just is what it is.
A lot of people look at the spring training highlights, right? That's all they see in their feeds. Not to just disrespect anybody. You know, you love to see that stuff. Him taking Edwin Diaz deep in spring training. Then you go into the numbers. Right. It's like this guy was not as good as advertised.
Omar says, what's up, guys? I feel like the moves for the most part, but Mullins to trade is going to cause a big domino effect. Excuse me. Mauricio and Acuna get sent down. Taylor might eventually get DFA'd. The only reason why I say Taylor won't, because they don't want Marte playing the field, and Jesse Winker, I don't think he's going to come back this year. I just don't. Sent to the 60-day IL today. And remember the other day, Mendoza came out and said the guy is barely even walking. That's what it sounds like. Tube says, Beatty, for as good as he's been, is not better than Vientos. I disagree. But I'm also an all-around type guy. Beatty could play left. He could play second. He could play first. He could play third. Vientos is subpar at everything except for hitting, which can be okay, but it's tough when you have one guy just hogging up that DH position, man. Very tough.
Yeah.
All right, we get to one or two more. Ramon says Beatty is a bench player. Probably. Might be that super utility guy coming in. That's what we always talk about. See what else we got here. We'll get to one more comment. Elliot says, why couldn't we have taken a risk of sorts with Alcantara Cease? They're struggling this year, but have great history. I don't think Cease was getting moved. I never thought that was a real option for the New York Mets. And Alcantara, they were asking for Spencer Jones plus other prospects for the Yankees. You're talking about, you want to give up McLean and Tung? Sure, you'll get them. Outside of that, for a hope and a prayer, no thanks. That's just me, though. Maybe you guys feel different. Dan?
Yeah, I would not give up a Jonah Tung at this point. It would really have to be for an upper echelon. If it's a Sandy, different story. I do feel pretty strongly about Sandy. I wish the Mets got him, but that's a different story. And we all know about the Paul Skeens of the world. That's a different caliber of talent. But yeah, Jonah Tung is a coveted pitcher for this New York Mets system, and we have to preserve him as long as we can. There's a reason why he's not up at AAA right now, because he's a guy who's good enough to make the jump straight from AA. But you want to keep building that confidence. That's a big thing for a player like that.
Right. All right, guys. That's it for us today. Be sure to check us out for our post-game comments. We will be getting Nelson on another time. He had an issue he ran into at home. Sometimes things like that happen. We're very understanding on this program. But be sure to like and subscribe. Consider becoming a member. And if you really want to help our show, share it with a friend. Help the platform expand. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hopefully, let's get this dub tomorrow. Let's kick the living hell out of this team. And let's get the dub. Take the series win. Let's go, Mets. Peace.